see, Annie, she knows.
Recording is on.
They know that they're wasting their time, but they have to obey. And the granny up there, she's just growing her vegetables, and she's just crazy. Like,
But
why?
you see, what I'm encouraging these people to do is to get meaning to life through rebellion. You see, because what they're doing now is they're sitting in learned helplessness. So the thing we need to train them to do is to do acts of rebellion. So the first thing is to, what XR should be doing is getting people to think that this all comes out nicely. You see, XR has made a big mistake because they got into this Erica Chenoweth trap where they're trying to recruit people, and they say, well, if we tell people the truth, it won't be popular. So we can't be anti-capitalist, and we can't say, can't tell them the truth about green energy transition is never going to happen and stuff like that, because otherwise it'll cost us membership. And you say, why do you want membership? You know damn well that Chenoweth was wrong, and there's no magic number that you can get, so where suddenly everything tips over and then we transform the planet. It's like, it's not going to happen. So you should lower your sights in XR and start telling people, look, we're fucked. You don't want to do deep adaptation like Jem Bendel said. That's cultish and a bit snuff cultish. But you want to get people out of the learned helplessness and into some meaningful resistance. So it's okay what they did outside the oil refinery and stuff. That's good. That's good. But what it's really that they can't do much more of that. I mean, it's going to get lame. I mean, they can't achieve anything by blockading an oil refinery. So it has a certain shelf life, but at some stage, even the biggest moron is going to see we can't do anything against this. And then they're going to be depressed as fuck. And so basically, it's better to start now and saying, the ways to do is as acts of rebellion on your own, personal rebellion. So it's basically you act as a lone wolf and do personal sabotage, as little as you can, but you need those endorphins and the serotonin from doing little acts of sabotage. So the first thing is to give up on the grand plan. This civilization does not work out. So that's the major thing. Once you've figured out that is how to make the collapse meaningful, and then rebellion to me is it. So if we're talking about the managed extinction, having kids into the managed extinction, you could have the Scarlet Pimpernel, or if, as a kid, you don't know. You might have a Robin Hood, and they'll have a fantastic life and thank you on their deathbed for having them. So yeah, but I wouldn't recommend having a kid, putting them through the school system, bullshitting them that they're going to live a 1950s life with, that isn't going to happen. So I would say that. I hope I kind of answered the question about the managed extinction nightmare. A life of rebellion is a very good life. In fact, it's the prototypical life. It is the life of Christ, right? The Christ model is what Jordan Peterson's saying about it. It's all suffering and stuff. It's not suffering. It's if you live in an oppressive environment, rebelling against it is its own special meaning. I mean, Sophie will tell you that after the struggles ended in Ireland, the guys didn't know what the fuck to do with themselves. They're all depressed as hell because the struggle was over and they didn't realize how meaningful it was in their life. But the same as the French resistance in World War II. Those guys had a fucking awesome time. Fucking awesome. And so they
that simple sabotage field manual was interesting to listen to. And I was interested that what you were just talking about, rebelling, and that they address that. But one part of it there where they discovered the section motivating the citizen saboteur, it was saying that that's a special problem. This relates to what you just said about the learned helplessness, and it says that maybe he is rebelling like that is foreign to his habituated conservationist attitude towards materials and tools, and also to being purposely stupid and all the other techniques that they were talking about. But yeah, that had a lot to say about that. I think a lot of the specific information about doing things was outdated because it is completely annulled by the surveillance society we live in. You'd be looking at other things to do. But some of I just said that little section on the psychology, dealing with the psychology of moving an ordinary person into the kind of different mindset was interesting.
Yeah, so that's why I say the first step is to get people to transfer allegiance. So the mistake XR is making now is by protesting to the government and stuff. That's why it's better to do blockades of things like an oil refinery, because you're going more to the heart. The heart of the system is the financial system. So that's really what they should be going for. But it's very bad to do protests to the government because it reinforces this infantile thing. Then it reinforces that the government is in charge. It reinforces a narrative that there's a hopeful outcome and the government can achieve it. It's wrong from so many angles. So it reinforces allegiance to the system and the government, because you're going out and doing protests and you're committing to the system, to reforming the system. So you have a vested interest in seeing the system reformed because you put in so much work to reform it. So you're in a catch-22. So it's basically an escalation of commitment. So they must stop that, because they're getting an escalation of commitment to the system, to the government, to the democracy, and it's a totally futile thing. Even if they overthrew the government, if Roger Hallam and the Pink Pussy Party or whatever he's doing now, is that if they won and overthrew the government, they'd still have the same problems the government has. They would, that's what happened in South Africa. Is basically the color of the faces changed from white to black, and then we carried on in South Africa exactly where we were before, because that wasn't the essence of the problem. The essence of the problem was capitalism, the system, the industrialization and urbanization. And so they still needed finance. So even if CA's got hold of the government, even if Roger Hallam became the Obergürtler, Gauleiter of Britain, it wouldn't help him, because somebody would still come to him and say, well, we still need money, we still need an economy and stuff. So it would be better to let people know that the system can't be reformed, right? This horse is not worth backing anymore. If they then realize they lose hope in the system, then they'll switch allegiance. And then you say, what's your allegiance to? It's the survivors, of course. Whatever can survive from the crash of this is what you should be focusing on. And so basically that implies acceleration, because it's basically every machine you can have. But then somebody said on Reddit, well, there's no point in sabotaging machines. They're just going to make another one. And so they didn't say that about the Germans. It's well, there's no point in going against Panzer tanks. You take out one and they just make another one. Not easily, they don't. And if you take out 2 or 3, they stop making them because they're fucked. So basically, so that's not a good argument. The way to think of it is every machine you break is they'll need, the survivors will have less crap to deal with. So just think about it. I mean, we should go back to the greenhouse gas lethality index. And you basically say every time you see a jet take off, that's about 100 people dead, according to the greenhouse gas thing. So it's, don't get too flouncy about non-violent protest. Is the fact that you allowed that plane to take off meant that you're killing 100 people through negligence. So no, not that many. I think
No,
I
I
think
think
they
it's
worked out
4.
about 13 or something like that on an average transatlantic flight. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's good to look at it from that point of view. And you're saying, it's like everything you can handle now, the survivors will thank you for, even if they don't know who you are and what you did. They will have less burden. If every ton of carbon that they don't have to deal with is an extra get out of jail free card for them.
Well,
So
I don't know how it is in Greece or in the States or in Australia at the moment, but the enforcement of severe lockdowns in Europe and this kind of mummy, nanny, granny, father state kind of help us with we're in big danger, and all these brainwashing informations at the moment that are extremely not conducive to acts of rebellion. People are confined to small areas. They can't meet. There is a big difficulties in traveling and organizing, traveling even in your small distances area. And I think we should have a meeting or a conversation maybe around this, because it's getting to the end of our time now. But I think I'm having an awful lot of questions about the lockdown method to deal with the pandemic. At this stage, I didn't have at the start, but now I'm starting to see so many main media, in chorus and starting to. I think I'd like to talk about that, because it is really stopping us from doing a lot of meeting other people and also doing things.
I kind of think the opposite, because the old ways need to change. So it's forcing protest to change.
Yeah, there is
So
there.
everybody's online, so they must adapt to protest online. So it's very difficult, because the left doesn't do finance and the left doesn't do tech, and so they're the least equipped for rebellion online. So it means that tech people have to help. There's a lot for little elves to do online, but there is an ongoing battle now online. It's basically the Third World War has started already online. Nobody sees it, but I'm telling you, it's been going on for a decade or more, and really since about 2008. But it's a stiff battle going on constantly online. And the left doesn't know about it. They're still in the street and green and banner drops and stuff. And they basically, they don't know that there's a pitched war going on in cyberspace. And they need to get with it and join that war. It's mostly state actors and renegades. But yeah, I tell people that the dark web is bigger than the visible web. And so that surprises people, especially on the left, But about 2 to 1 is basically B2B transactions are about 2 to 1. So everybody thinks, oh, it's all Amazon online. No, that's not really. That's about a third of the traffic. The real traffic is logistics, B2B, stuff like that. So you have to think in terms of grounding. Oh shit! Now I've got to be careful. Okay, how can I put this? Imagine a hypothetical situation where you're on a planet and they have spaceships that go backwards and forwards carrying COVID between cities. Now, each one of those spaceships going between, these Venetian cities has a tremendous amount of electronic traffic. Most of it's unencrypted and exposed to you just with the VHF set you can do. It's called ACAS. And there's a whole transmission system. Basically, there's a vast logistics network in all of these things, from super tankers to you name it. All these things have for everything you see that's, say, one transaction on Amazon. There's probably 1,000, maybe more than that, maybe 10,000 times the volume of electronic traffic to support your click on Amazon. So all of those are highly subject to interruption. Basically, the whole system only works because people cooperate. So XR's first call of duty is to stop people cooperating and switch their allegiance. What they're doing, you see, what they're talking in that field manual for the citizen saboteur is that the average person in an occupied territory, right? Imagine a French person. They've defeated, so they're depressed. The Germans have won and they've occupied France. It's, basically tears and shame and stuff like that. Now, the average person will think, how do I deal with this? And then they're thinking very small in terms of getting a job, and they're not thinking in terms of resisting. They're thinking, in essence, they help the German occupation with because they're quislings. Because that's the easiest thing to do. The easiest thing after the occupation is to just swap out your totalitarian Peter for Fritz, and then you carry on, right? And so it's to get them to think that this is not a permanent situation. So the first problem is that if you are occupied by Germany, you think that's it. You think that's it. They don't know that the war ends in 1945. They think that basically Hitler's going to own France for another 1,000 years. And so they act accordingly. So the first thing is to say, like, nah, the Germans have really stretched themselves to get this far, and they need your cooperation to get further. So gradually the guys start a culture of resistance. And so what they do is, when the more overt things where the Germans need a labor force, so they conscript labor into factories and they put them onto construction sites. And then when you're building, basically a bunker for the Atlantic Wall, well, the French guys, when the Germans weren't looking, they would put loads of sand in the bunker, knowing that if that thing takes a direct hit, there's, a platoon taken out. And so once they got into that way of thinking, it spreads like a disease, and then it's very difficult for those. So it's basically you must think of it like COVID. There are a lot of lessons in COVID if you think of the memes spreading in those ways. So we must talk about COVID in terms of surveillance and the state response. Is they will respond to this kind of thing almost exactly like a pandemic. So you should think in terms of COVID now as a general citizen saboteur insurrection. Then at the moment everybody thinks, well, they've got a camera on me, so I can't do anything because it's basically they've substituted the old medieval things like God's got his eye on you. It's like, yeah, it's far more complicated than that. We must talk about surveillance, and the surveillance is there to intimidate you. It's not there to really catch you. And so once the civilian population starts switching allegiance and actively pursuing a culture of resistance against an oppressor, then there are all sorts of things you can do. One of the things where the state is extremely vulnerable is they've overdone surveillance. So Binney and that pointed out to these guys that you're collecting too much data. So so what activists should do, instead of doing what they're too easily intimidated, like XR. They just threaten you, hey, we're going to make you terrorists. We're going to call you terrorists. Oh no, don't call us terrorists. That'll fuck up our recruitment and stuff. It's like, no, be a terrorist. It's just scaremongering. So take it, own it. Say, yeah, we're terrorists. We're fighting, and say, make it glamorous. So we're fighting for Gaia. So I'm a fucking terrorist for Gaia. Own it. Then you'll get the real sort of people that you really want in the movement, not sort of fly-by-night people. And then what those people will be able to do is to start doing things like overwhelming it, and so start playing chess against that surveillance state. So that's the kind of course.
We should think about that for next time. And I think maybe we could do that on Reddit, but maybe we could do this time thing. That would be because of poor Gary, at this time, and Mike, I don't know, because the States, you're well up to your lunch, and we could just reflect. I don't know the other participants where they are, but maybe we could change. We could do it earlier or whatever, earlier for me, and maybe, I don't know. I don't mind because I'm free, but we can discuss that on the. You know, how are you, Gary?
Gary, you're the one that's making the most commitment here. You're on
Hey,
mute.
Gary, you're muted. You're muted, Gary.
I'm sorry. It depends on both Mike and me, because it's his morning and it's my night. So I think it's like it's 8 o'clock in the morning for you normally, is it? Yeah. Well, see,
Yeah,
your 8 o'clock is
Mhm.
your 8 o'clock is so that's what we were. So and everybody else is in between us. So we're the extremes. So I'm happy just to leave it at how it is. So that means
Yeah.
Hugh and Sophie have got to move slightly, haven't you, to take your daylight saving into
I
account?
don't mind moving in either direction.
Sorry.
I don't mind either direction. Do you want to do it at the what would have been the correct time with daylight saving, or do you want to do it earlier, Gary?
I'd like to do it earlier if I can, but I think that's going to mean Mike's going to be starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, which might be a bit early for him.
Oh,
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Why don't we
Or
just
I
don't
think,
answer now. Think about it, and we'll work on it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to work anyone into a corner. Just ideally, I don't want it to be any later if it can be avoided.
Okay, I'll set the next one for the same time.
Yeah, if we just leave it at like one. What have you said? One UTC, and whatever that is for local time. So which obviously is the same time for Mike and me, because we were here an hour before you and Sophie.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, same time UTC. Yeah.
All right. Is that enough for this week, or?
Oh yeah. Thanks, Gary and Mike, for such a long session. You guys.
we started way before.
Well, we got into it after a while. And by the time you two showed up, it was a surprise.
So sorry about that. I give
Yeah, sorry, really. I
Yeah.
didn't realize UTC at all. Yeah.
blasted daylight saving. I hate that thing.
No. I mean, we were speculating that it was rather strange that if one person was missing, that they might have made a mistake. But there were two people who were missing, and we were speculating that maybe there'd been a major sabotage of some digital cable in the Northern Hemisphere, or a catastrophe had occurred that had taken out, Northern Europe or something like that, and we haven't got the news yet.
It's the war between Greece and Ireland.
Well,
I
the
don't
thing
think
is, though,
any of those scenarios are a catastrophe.
it could happen one day. We'll log on to Dance Macabre and find that those people are gone and they're not coming back.
Yeah, I mean, hey, David Graeber apparently, it looks like from reading from what his girlfriend said, he died of COVID. So, yeah, if I get COVID, I'm probably gonna die in a little bay here somewhere. Might be months before anybody finds me.
Well.
Okay, but anyway, it's a very good session. I wasn't expecting this range of topics, but
Yeah.
No, I think the topic that I think you really this business earlier on when you were talking about the just people deciding whether or not to reproduce, I think that really grabbed everyone's attention. It was really something that was. I mean, everybody here seemed to have significant stake in that kind of discussion. So it's good.
Yeah, maybe other people can also weigh in what they think as well in the comments.
Yeah, yeah.
Or post something. Post a question.
Post something.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a very sensitive issue.
It is. It's a very important one, and our thinking is so fucked up. Partly because it's so many taboos around discussing it. But
it's so much into reproduction is an instinct. It's not just something you discuss. So it's that.
Yeah, the mammalian brain rules, man. I was really kind of shocked with Monboy and the Planet of the Humans, and saying that it's racist to talk about that. I was shocked because I thought we left that behind in the 70s. I didn't know that there were still people that thought talking about overpopulation is about brown people in this day and age. It was like I thought like this is a hot tub, time machine back to the 80s or something. I thought like nobody's used overpopulation in terms of brown people, I thought, for decades. So I was blown away. But it shows how unexercised this topic is, that people can closet away such a retrograde thought in their heads. And then the other people that think talking about overpopulation in terms of China is racist, and it's like, nope, it's demographics. Sorry.
It's factual.
Yeah. So anyway,
but this is where you're running.
Yeah.
This is where you run into the kind of cancel culture thing. If
the
discussion's too hard.
That kind of stuff is really clogging the airwaves, and that needs to stop. You just basically got to tell people you got to get over that shit, man. We've got to have important conversations, and stop thinking everybody's politically incorrect, or you can shut down people's speech, or you can stop the rise of Hitler by censoring people's speech and stuff. It's just retarded. Just get over it. Stop that shit. It's basically the important discussions that need to be had, and you just give everybody the benefit of the doubt. We don't hate gay people. We don't hate black people. We don't, it's just nothing to do with racism. Just like put all that identity politics aside. We need to have these discussions like adults,
Here, here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was good.
All right.
Thanks,
that was
everybody.
really good.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right. So we'll see you all next week.